So imagine this. You're in a long distance relationship. Your fiance tells you she's going through surgery, but skips the part where it's cosmetic and completely changes her appearance. Oh, and by the way, you're footing the bill. Yeah, romantic, right? Today's story kicks off with a man who's not just blindsided, he's basically handed the receipt for something he didn't ask for. And now everyone expects him to smile through it. Is he being shallow, or is this a giant red flag with glitter on top? Let me know down in the comments. What would you do if your partner pulled something like this? And hey, if you enjoy these wild Reddit stories that make your own life look shockingly normal, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, the drama only gets messier from here. Would I be the asshole? If I left my long distance fiance after finding out the size of her breast enlargement in person, the title makes me sound shallow, but I need to explain. I, male 30, have been with Eliza, female 31, for 2 years. We got engaged a year ago, right before I moved away for a 1 year work assignment. I fly back every few weeks and stay for about a week each time, sometimes more, sometimes less. One of our shared goals was to save for a house, which is part of why I took this job in the first place. It was a great opportunity and helped me hit 50% of my $50,000 goal for the down payment. 3 months ago, Eliza told me she was going in for cosmetic surgery. I always knew she was insecure about her breasts and had considered getting work done, but I did not know she was doing it so soon. As soon as I could take time off, I flew back to help her recover for a week. She insisted her mom take care of the bandages, so I never actually saw her bare chest, just the general shape through her robe and dressings. They looked bigger, but I figured it might just be swelling. Fast forward to a couple of days ago. I flew back again. We went out for dinner, booked a hotel to celebrate, and yeah, she went big. I do not know how she got the surgeon to agree, but she jumped from something like a B cup to a DD, maybe more. They are large, and to be honest, they look really stretched. The scars are raw and very noticeable. It does not look natural at all. I asked her how much it cost, and she said $10,000. I followed up by asking how much she has saved toward our house, and she told me she only has $5,000. That night, after sleeping with her, while I basically had to imagine she still had her old body, I found myself really unsettled. I do not want to hurt her or shame her for her choices, but I am just not attracted to the changes she made. And even beyond that, I do not think we are on the same page financially or in terms of priorities anymore. I want to be honest with her, say that my priorities have shifted, and walk away. I would do everything I can to be kind and preserve her feelings during the breakup. Would I be the asshole for ending things now? Honestly, I do not think the writer would be the asshole for wanting out. People change, bodies change, but so do relationships and the values that hold them together. It is not just about the surgery, it is about how it was handled, how priorities were misaligned, and how it clearly left him feeling blindsided and disconnected. Physical attraction matters in a relationship, but so does financial compatibility and mutual decision making. Wanting to walk away from something that no longer feels right, especially when you plan to do it with care and respect, does not make someone the villain. Sometimes love fades quietly while the surface still looks fine. Anyway, let's see what the next Reddit rabbit hole has in store. Am I the asshole for not wanting my partner to sniff test my crotch anytime I've been out? Okay, I know how ridiculous this sounds. It is ridiculous. I cannot believe I'm actually writing this, but here we are. My partner, female 25, keeps saying that I, male 26, would only have a problem with her sniffing my crotch when I get home if I was trying to hide something. So, Reddit, I need your help. We've been together for 4 years and living together for 2. There's never been any cheating, but she's always had a jealous streak. That said, things have gotten seriously out of hand over the past 7 or 8 months. She checks my phone all the time. I let her because I've got nothing to hide, but it still feels invasive. When I'm out with friends, she tracks my location and expects constant check ins. If I take a bit too long to text back, she starts accusing me of all sorts. And if I'm even slightly late getting home, she assumes I've been with another woman. The sniffing started about 8 months ago. I was at the pub with some friends and my phone died. I ended the night early because I knew she'd be panicking. As soon as I walked in the door, she hit me with questions and accusations. I explained myself 5 or 6 times and then she suddenly got quiet. She stood in front of me, dropped to her knees, and started pulling down my pants. At first, I genuinely thought something fun was about to happen, but instead, she sniffed me down there. She was trying to see if I smelled like sex. It was shocking. She apologized later and said she was just upset, but it hasn't stopped. Now she does it weekly. When I tell her how insane this is, she insists that I'd only be uncomfortable if I actually had something to hide. She even told me I could sniff her genitals whenever I want, but no, that's not something I ever want to do. It's just bizarre. She refuses to accept how messed up this is, so I'm turning to Reddit. Am I the asshole for not wanting my girlfriend to constantly sniff my crotch to check if I've been cheating? Edit to add a few things. She has a history of mental health struggles. She was previously diagnosed with EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder, which I've learned is another term for borderline personality disorder. This all got noticeably worse around 8 months ago, right when she found out her parents were divorcing because her dad had an affair. I don't want to break up with her. Um, I know I've been in denial about how bad things have gotten, but I've decided to sit her down and tell her that she either gets help, real therapy, and I'll be there to support her, or it's over. I'll try to update with what happens. This honestly doesn't feel like a question of whether the writer is the asshole. It's a cry for clarity and support. There's something incredibly sad about a relationship where basic trust has been replaced by ritualized suspicion. Nobody should be treated like a suspect in their own home. The sniffing thing is not quirky or funny, it's humiliating, and it points to something way deeper going on. The fact that he's still willing to stay and help her get the support she needs says a lot about his patience and care, but that care has to extend to himself too. If she refuses help, he has every right to walk away without guilt. Hopefully, that sit down talk brings a turning point because no one deserves to live under constant interrogation. All right, let's move on because the next story, it's somehow even more unbelievable. Am I the asshole for suggesting to my husband that we put his mother in a home? I, 45 female, and my husband, 56 male, are going through a rough patch. Recently, his mother, 78 female, has been dealing with worsening health issues, and her doctor recommended she start receiving full-time care. Up until now, she has been living alone with nurses checking in every other day. Now my husband thinks the best solution is to move her into our home. The problem is, I do not want my mother-in-law living with us. She has always been rude to both me and my daughter, 11 female. She was originally against my marriage to her son because we come from different religious backgrounds. He is Mormon, and I was raised Lutheran but now consider myself agnostic. She has also never liked that I do not fit into her definition of what a traditional woman should be. She pushes those outdated beliefs on my daughter too, making judgmental comments about how she dresses and behaves. She has said things like, wear leggings with your dress, or else you make God upset. And when God's upset, sends people to bad places. That kind of talk has left my daughter feeling ashamed and anxious. Another time, when my daughter mentioned she wanted to be a veterinarian, my mother-in-law shot it down, saying, a proper lady should not work outside the home, focus on raising a family. She hates that I work, and she makes that very clear. Meanwhile, she treats my son, 8 male, completely differently. She is affectionate and supportive with him, but constantly criticizes my daughter. The favoritism is glaring. To my husband's credit, he usually stands up for me when his mother is around, but he is still set on moving her in. He says she is too sick to live alone, and his brother, her only other child, is currently in rehab and unable to help. I suggested, then put her in a retirement home, and he got furious. He told me that no matter what, she is still his mother, and he has a responsibility to her. He promised he would have a serious conversation with her about how she treats me and our daughter if she does move in. But honestly, I do not want my children, especially my daughter, growing up in a home with someone who makes them feel ashamed of who they are. Last night, in the middle of an argument, he said, "You can move out of the house, but I am not moving my mother into a retirement home." Am I the asshole for suggesting that we put my mother-in-law in a home? Edit. Since some people are asking, yes, she would still receive nursing care. My husband wants her to move in and have the nurses start coming every day instead of every other day. There is nothing heartless about setting boundaries to protect your peace, especially when those boundaries are for the sake of your kids. From what I'm reading, this is not about avoiding responsibility. It's about trying to prevent a toxic dynamic from becoming permanent inside your home. I get that your husband feels a duty to his mother, but that duty should not come at the expense of his own family's emotional well-being. His mother is actively harming your daughter's self-worth with her judgment and favoritism. Wanting her to receive care without dragging everyone else down in the process does not make you the villain. In fact, it sounds like you're the only one here looking out for everyone. Let's see what the next story brings, because if this one got your blood pressure up, the next one might just top it. Am I the asshole for throwing away a gift after my boyfriend made fun of it in front of his friends? So, I, 22 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 25 male, for about 6 months. A little while ago for his birthday, I made him a small gift, a handmade mini scrapbook. It had some photos, ticket stubs from things we did together, personal notes, all that. I spent a good amount of time on it because I wanted to do something meaningful instead of just buying something generic. When I gave it to him, he seemed really sweet about it. He said he loved it and put it on his shelf. I thought that was that. A few days later, we were hanging out and drinking with some of his friends, and the topic of birthday gifts came up. My boyfriend laughed and described my scrapbook as middle school relationship core. His friends laughed too. He wasn't outright mocking me, but the way he talked about it, the tone, the way he described it like it was childish, made me feel really embarrassed. I smiled and laughed along, but inside I felt crushed. I did not say anything then, but I cried when I got home. Later, I quietly took the scrapbook and threw it away. I know that might sound petty, but I was hurt, and it no longer felt like a sweet keepsake. It felt like a joke, like I was the only one taking the relationship seriously. I also know my boyfriend is not sentimental. He keeps his place really minimal and tidy, so maybe I should have just bought him something more practical instead of giving him something he had no real use for. Yesterday, he noticed it was missing and asked where it went. I told him I had thrown it out. When I explained why, he said I was being dramatic. He told me it was just a dumb joke, that I take everything too personally, and that if anything, I overreacted by tossing it instead of just telling him how I felt. Now I feel kind of dumb. I know he did not mean to hurt my feelings, but it still stung. And I am wondering, am I the asshole for taking it so personally and throwing it away now that he feels like I turned it into a bigger deal? Edit. I forgot to add. He did apologize and took me out afterward, but also added some comments saying we were all tipsy when he made the joke and that I just took things too far. That is part of why I am torn about how to feel. Also, we have been officially together for 6 months, but we have known each other for nearly 2 years, so the scrapbook included memories from even before we started dating. There's something really honest about this kind of hurt. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's just quietly painful. From where I'm sitting, I do not think the writer is the asshole at all. When you pour time and emotion into something personal and then it gets dismissed, especially in front of others, it hits a soft spot that words alone do not always fix. Her reaction was emotional, yes, but also deeply human. She did not scream or lash out. She just quietly removed a piece of herself that no longer felt safe. And the fact that he minimized it afterward with, "You always take things too personally," says more about his comfort level than hers. Relationships thrive on respect for each other's love language, even when it is not your own. Anyway, let's keep it moving, because the next Reddit story, yeah, it's somehow just as messy. Am I the asshole for taking walks on my lunch break? A few years ago, I started a new job that is much more office-based than what I was used to. Because of the sedentary nature of it, I have been moving less, gaining a bit of weight, and getting pretty out of shape. I am not overweight, but I am definitely carrying more fat than I used to, and I can tell my stamina and cardio have taken a hit. I get a 1 hour paid lunch break every day. A lot of my coworkers tend to eat at their desks and casually check emails or do minor tasks while eating. I prefer to eat in my car and then take a walk, usually laps around the parking garage, before heading back in. I always return on time, never late, and my lunch break never exceeds the allotted hour. Recently, I was doing my usual routine: grabbed my food, ate it in the car, and then started my walk. While I was walking, I ran into a coworker who was heading to his car because he had forgotten something. He stopped me and asked what I was doing. I explained that I had finished eating and was just taking a walk before my break ended. He did not like that. He told me that lunch breaks are meant for eating, not walking, and that once I was done eating, I should return to work. I told him we are given an hour for lunch, and I want to use the full hour in a way that works for me. Since then, I have started getting comments from other coworkers before I head out for my break. Um, Comments I never got before that encounter. I have a feeling he told people. Still, I do not think I'm doing anything wrong. I am entitled to my break. My work always gets done on time. I take my lunch around the same time every day, so it is predictable. Occasionally, I come back to a couple of non-urgent emails, but nothing major. I even keep my phone on me during the walk in case I'm needed urgently, which has never once happened. I mentioned it to my parents, and they both told me they work through lunch and think I should not be out walking during mine. But they are from an older generation, and I do not know if their take is really fair in this case. So, am I the asshole for choosing to walk during my lunch break? Edit to add: yes, the break is paid. I am on salary. A lot of people seem to think it is unpaid, but it is not. My manager is totally fine with it. The issue is only coming from a few coworkers who apparently take issue with the fact that I use part of my lunch to walk. Reading this, I genuinely do not think the writer is the asshole at all. If anything, it is a reflection of how stuck some people are in outdated work habits or jealousy when someone sets boundaries and actually uses their break in a healthy way. Just because a break is paid does not mean it must be spent glued to a desk. The rules are clear: 1 hour, uninterrupted. Walking during your break does not make you lazy or disrespectful. It makes you human. Some folks need to realize that working through lunch is not a badge of honor. Anyway, let us close this one out and move on, because the next story in this rabbit hole, yep, it is even pettier.